Hello and welcome to Good News Street, a digital Sunday school journey through Mark's Gospel.
Okay, we're going to do a whistle-stop tour down Good News Street, or through Mark's Gospel. We're going to start right at the beginning. That's where most stories start. But right at the beginning, Mark tells us all the things that we need to know about his book. His book is about Jesus. He calls him the Messiah and the Son of God. In his book, he'll show us what those things mean. Strangely, Mark starts his book by telling us not about Jesus, but about his cousin, who we know as John the Baptist. But the first thing we see Jesus do is seeing his cousin and then getting baptized by him. Straight after that, Jesus goes out into the wilderness, where he's tempted by the devil. And he's the only one who doesn't give in to temptation. He calls the disciples, and then he starts healing people. Some of these stories are pretty famous, like the man who had leprosy, the paralyzed man who came down through the roof and who Jesus forgave, and the man with the withered hand. He calls Levi to be one of his disciples and tells us a bit about them. And then he starts teaching people in parables. Now, in case you've gotten used to Jesus being able to heal people, Mark shows us he has way more power than that. Power over nature. And power to set people free. We see people come to him for help, and even that he brings people back to life. Jesus sends the disciples out to do the same kind of teaching, and miracles even, that he's been doing. One of his most famous miracles is about the feeding of the 5,000. But did you know there was also a time he fed 4,000 people? After seeing all of these miracles and hearing all of these stories and teaching, his disciples realized something important about him, that he's the Messiah. Now, Mark knows this is a big deal, so he puts it right in the middle of his book. And then he shows us what that means when Jesus is transfigured on the mountaintop, and when he heals a small boy. The disciples see how great Jesus is and argue among themselves about who's going to be the greatest. But Jesus tells them that they should be more like the little children who come to him. Then Mark tells us a few different stories about money, about the rich young ruler who wouldn't give up his money to follow Jesus, and the poor woman who gave everything she had to God at the temple. The people welcome Jesus as their king, and he goes on to teach them about the greatest commandment, about what God really wants from them. He also teaches them more confusing things, like about some things that are going to happen in the future, such as the destruction of the temple. We then see how much Mary, one of his friends, loves him, as she washes his feet with some perfumed oil to show how special he is to her. The night before he dies, Jesus celebrates a meal with his friend and gives us something to remember him by. He cries in the garden, and all his friends abandon him, even Peter. He's then put on trial, made fun of, and nailed to a cross to die. Even one of the men who helped kill him sees there is something very different, very special, and very wonderful about who Jesus is. Jesus dies and is buried, but that's not the end of the story. Mark wrote all of these stories and more down so that people like you and me could get to know Jesus. In Good News Street, we're going to explore some of these stories in detail and see where it takes us. You're very welcome to join us on the journey.